Sports Edge.
Are you ready, Franz?
Familiar with curling. Their true athletic talent can't truly be harnessed and recognized on a global stage until a nice facility is built in Nigeria where they can practice and get better acquainted with the game. In doing this, we'll be able to capture so many people's dreams and truly bring Olympic success to Nigeria.
All right, it's a beautiful day. I'm so glad to have you both join us right here on Sports Edge. You know, Sports Edge is on Galaxy Television in Nigeria. And we're so glad to have you, Chris Neimeth, also having Noah. And what's your thought, Patty? What's his name?
This is Franz right here. Hello. And because of the quarantine,
here, it's so glad to have you. Of course, we know that we're talking about the sport curling, and we have our focus on Nigerian Curling Federation, and that's where we have Chris here. Beautiful one. Nice to have you guys join us today.
thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
All right, let's go straight right now. Of course, we know our main focus would be on Chris Neimeth over here, and we know that you were one of the players who curled for Nigeria, and we know that Nigeria became the first African side to ever make history making it to the competition. Now, looking at this right now, we'd like to know from the background how you were able to call for Nigeria, even with your color, the fact that you're white, but you're able to still call for
Yes, definitely.
Nigeria. Let's know how you're affiliated to.
Yes, definitely. So my dad was born in Nigeria in 1963, and kind of as my grandfather was working there for a long time, and really ever since my dad was born there, my family formed a deep connection with Nigeria and has been doing a lot of business and work with the people of Nigeria ever since the 60s. So for almost 60 years now, we've been in Nigeria and been doing a lot of work there. So my family's built a deep love for Nigeria and a deep respect for the people. So because of that connection, we have taken this opportunity to kind of be involved with the Nigerian Curling Federation, and I've gotten the amazing opportunity to play.
Okay, we need to know exactly where from Nigeria your dad came from.
Definitely.
We know there are a lot of places in Nigeria over here, so we really need to know where exactly your dad came from here.
Yeah, definitely. So my dad was born in Port Harcourt, but then as a young child moved to Aba and lived there for a couple years, and then eventually moved actually to Lagos and lived in Ikeja for a long time. So he's moved a little bit around, but yeah.
That's a good one over here. Of course, you know every single place here in Nigeria. You've mentioned Ikeja, Aba, Port Harcourt, and all others. It's a beautiful one to know here. Now, let's ask you the question now. Why call for Nigeria and not the United States?
Definitely. So kind of throughout my curling career, I've had a lot of opportunities to play with various teams at different levels, and at a high level, I've had a lot of opportunities to play. But I've chosen to kind of curl for Nigeria because I think that spreading the sport and kind of laying the groundwork for young people in Nigeria to take up the sport and be really successful at it is a very meaningful thing to be a part of. So I think that by competing, I can kind of lay the groundwork so that some of the homegrown curlers in Nigeria can kind of one day go and play at the international stage and really succeed.
It's a beautiful. How did you feel when Nigeria made their appearance at the competition, being the first African side? How did you feel?
It was amazing to see, and I think it's a great thing to be a part of, and to be a part of history is amazing. And I think furthermore, to represent the country of Nigeria kind of in this way is a great honor that I think everyone on the team feels, and I certainly feel.
I don't want to discard what I have. I want to knock theirs out and prevent them from scoring with that long. So you can throw this at a takeout, and you can try to like hit with your stroke, the other team's strokes, and have yours kind of sit there and does anyone have any questions about that?
What does curling mean to you away from other sports? We know United States are good with basketball. When you see every single teenager around there, they just want to play basketball. And you know, football has a popularity also. So many people are so in love with football. So why curling? What does curling mean to you?
Definitely. So, kind of in high school and when I was younger, I played a lot of sports. I played football at a pretty high level, as well as basketball, and I ran track. But those sports obviously aren't something that you can play for your entire life. So, kind of in high school, I kind of found curling because my mother's family did it a lot when she was growing up. So, I kind of tried it out, and I really fell in love with the game because it's all about strategy. And because of that, it really has a unique way of being able to be played for your entire life. Like when I go and curl in Quebec, I curl with people who are 10 years old, and I curl with people who are 90 years old. And I think that that's a very interesting and unique part of the sport that I love.
Okay, you weren't feeling intimidated at all that you had to call for Nigeria. Not is a non-popular country where we don't have even winter over here. You didn't feel intimidated at all.
No, not really. I think it was just a great. Obviously, there's a lot of honor and a little bit and pressure that comes with representing Nigeria as you're kind of the face for the country and for the curling federation in particular. So there's obviously some pressure that comes along with that. But I think the curling community as a whole is very accepting and excited to see new people play the game. So there wasn't a lot. I didn't feel particularly nervous about actually going and competing because I knew that it was going to be fun and we were going to be successful in one way or another. So yeah, it was just a great opportunity and a great experience.
It's a beautiful one to know here. Now let's bring the other practice into the fore right now. Now I'd like to know you over here. No, you need to tell us your name.
Hi, I'm Noah Geller. I'm friends with Chris.
So your next partner.
So I'm Franz Tanner. I'm a friend of Chris. We met in college. We study both at Stanford University. And I'm an American or also Austrian, and we met in college. And Chris introduced me to the great sport of curling and told me about the Nigerian Curling Federation starting to play internationally and building a team. And I thought this was a very cool opportunity to work with some young people who are changing the world. Yeah.
That's a beautiful one to know. Now, Noah, with the fact that you had your friend call for Nigeria, what did you really tell him at the time when he told you that he wanted to call for Nigeria?
I didn't really believe it at first because, Nigeria is so far away. I didn't even really know that he was big into curling before he told me about that. But one day he told me what was going on, and he asked if I wanted to try out the sport and wanted to maybe get involved with him a little bit. And I thought it sounded like a great idea, and I fell in love right away.
Evening. Team Nigeria, about to be on television, y'all.
It's all about firsts for Team Nigeria, the first and only African nation in the world of curling.
Let's talk about that training aid once again. I think it's network. Well, let's talk about the training aid. What dropped that idea into your hearts? What dropped that idea?
Definitely. So, obviously, as a part of the Nigerian Curling Federation, I went and helped put on some of the clinics that they had in Lagos last year. And we had the great opportunity to use some of the dry curling equipment. But one of the things that I noticed was lacking was that, and something that some of the other team members of NCF have pointed out, is that you lack some ability to practice some of the mechanics of the game. So that was a problem I really wanted to solve because I think that's obviously a necessary step for getting people in Nigeria to train on the game and then eventually be able to join and compete on a world stage. So I started doing a lot of independent research about what different materials I thought would be good substitutes for ice in making some kind of aid to kind of aid with that aspect of the training. So after I did a little bit of research, had an idea, and I approached Noah and Franz, my roommates at the time, with the idea what I thought could work because they both study physics. So they had a little bit of knowledge that I didn't have that I thought would be helpful in kind of making this product a reality.
Wonderful. Now, how did you get that information? Like, how did it sink into you when Chris brought that idea up?
I thought it seemed like a very interesting challenge and something that I'd never imagined, like a problem I never imagined I would have to try to solve. But I realized that there was a lot of good work we could do, and there was a lot that we still didn't know and a lot to investigate. So it was really exciting to me when he proposed it.
It was something you could explore.
Exactly.
Okay, how did Franz come into the fore right now? Franz, what was your contribution?
Well, so I study engineering physics at Stanford University, and I would say that this is a unique problem where it's a sport that seems very simple, but there's a lot of interesting physics and engineering going on that we didn't expect at first. So there's some unique challenges when designing the surface and understanding how a person slides across ice can be very complicated, but it's very fascinating also.
Wonderful. Now, I'd like to ask Noah right now, how does this training aid work? How does it work?
Yeah, so the idea is that normally when curling, you need a very cold environment to keep the ice at a normal consistency and to be able to slide properly. But obviously, keeping a really cold environment can be very expensive. It uses a lot of resources. So we're basically looking for a way we can create a substitute for ice that will behave the same when you're sliding on it, but doesn't require as much coldness. So you can do it in a hotter climate, such as the climate of Nigeria. That's really the goal of what we're trying to do.
Wonderful. So you put Nigeria as number one priority with the fact that the country is not a winter nation. Is that what you're saying?
Definitely.
Exactly.
That was
What's
kind of
about this training aid? Chris, I need you to answer right now. What's the unique thing about it?
definitely. So kind of the unique thing about this training aid as opposed to other training aids kind of associated with curling is that the material is, we've kind of uniquely selected it so that it will be stable and representative of ice at very high temperatures and high humidity. So kind of to couple with that, a lot of other training aids kind of rely on some access to ice, whereas this functions completely independently of that and kind of has the added benefit that you can both play small scale games on it while also being able to practice the sliding mechanic, which is also something that other training aids at the moment don't have.
Okay, of course we know that at every single thing being manufactured or even produced, there should come challenges being faced when producing such a thing. Now, what were the challenges being faced by your trial?
Definitely. So I think one of the biggest challenges that we faced when kind of going about this project was that there's not a lot of research into this kind of thing. It's kind of a very niche field that not very many people are looking into. So there wasn't a lot of work that we could kind of start from. We kind of had to do a lot of our own research and kind of pioneer a lot of different techniques for testing the efficacy of the training aid that we're creating. And then furthermore, there's obviously only so many materials that really behave in the way that we wanted it to, while also being like cost efficient. Because that was another thing that we really wanted to emphasize, to make something that was not only a good aid and representative of the sport, but also it would be affordable so that a lot of people would have access to it and a lot of people could really reap the benefits of using the training aid.
Okay, now looking at this training aid, of course we know at your age range, you want to work on something that will be convenient with your age grade. Now, this training aid, was it something that anyone could use, whether if a child, an adult, or even the old? Is it something that everyone is susceptible to, every single person who wants to curl?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the main things that we really wanted to emphasize when designing this was that anyone that could curl could use this training aid. And since pretty much everyone can curl, pretty much everyone can use the training aid. So I think that's a very unique and kind of amazing property of the aid that we've created, is that it's very not only easy to get and easy to make if you want to make it, but it's also easy to use and it's very applicable for kind of every level of curling, I think.
Okay, now, what's your contribution? What was your contribution to this training aid? Exactly, tell us a bit by bit how you contributed to this.
Yeah, so I would say my main contribution has been writing some software tools that we're using to test out our equipment and to test out the training aids. So we need to be able to understand exactly how the curling stone is moving on the ice or on our replacement for the ice to understand if it's working correctly. So we've been developing some software that's able to take data from a curling rink and process it and try to understand exactly what's going on. So I've been handling more the software side of everything.
Okay. What was Fran's contribution to?
I work a lot with the prototyping, so I like to bring my engineering background into seeing, can we try this out and test it and see, do our predictions match up with what we want to do? So our results have been pretty good, and I've been working on that.
Okay. Do you have any worries whatsoever with this training aid, how it would be acceptable, how it should be adopted by people? Do you have any worries whatsoever about this training?
I mean, obviously, I think kind of our main worries right now are just how can we make it better? So obviously, I think we have a very good idea and it's working very well. And I think it does a really good job of kind of teaching the basics of curling, but kind of to go along with that, there's always ways that you can improve it. So kind of our main focus at the moment is really trying to maximize kind of its utility and kind of the efficacy of what it does. So I feel like that's mostly our main worry, is just trying to maximize its utility.
We know every single nation, if not away from Africa, into this sport. Now, have you ever wondered about or bothered about acceptability by every single nation? Especially, this is a self-training aid. Every single one will want to use this to help improve their curling ability. Now, have you ever bothered about acceptability by people?
Yeah, definitely. So I think kind of in creating it, we wanted to make sure it was really universal, so that we wanted to make sure that all the materials that we were using when we were making it you could get easily kind of pretty much anywhere in the world. So to kind of go along with that, in doing that, we wanted to really emphasize that if someone wanted to make it and if someone wanted to use it, they could have the opportunity to do so. So I think that,
Wonderful.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, of course, we know that you represent the Nigerian Curling Federation. What level of support did you get from the Nigerian Curling Federation on this training aid?
Definitely. So they were immensely supportive. Daniel, who's the president of the Nigerian Curling Federation, actually wrote us a very nice letter endorsing our project, and
Okay.
kind of we've been consulting him kind of every step of the way to see how can we really tailor it and make it better for the purposes that we really intended it to be used in. And kind of to go along with that, his letter was actually immensely helpful in helping us find a mentor at the university to kind of help guide us through this process of making the training aid.
Okay. Now, is this training aid something that can be visible, that I can see over here?
Ooh. I can send you a video after if you want. It's in my basement, so I can't bring my computer there, unfortunately.
All right, it's fine. Okay, of course, we know that this cannot be done without support from your friends.
Mm-hmm.
What support you're talking about? Noah and Franz over here. Now, Franz and Noah, what level of support did you give Chris that really motivated him to move forward? Noah?
Yeah, I think that I've just tried to be here for anything Chris needs. I know he's kind of the one really driving this project. He's the one that has the really strong connection to the Nigerian Curling Federation. So I've just tried to be here for everything that he could possibly need. So we kind of just do whatever he says and try to help him out with whatever he wants. That's really our function here, I would say.
That's a good and supportive friend. Let's hear from Fran.
Yeah, I think it's really we're really trying to work very closely with Chris, and this is a very big project that I think no one person can do by themselves, but Chris has been a great leader in this sense, and we're just trying to be there at his side whenever he needs it.
Best in the world. Their legacy, a strong Nigerian curling federation with curling for all. They have the drive and the passion. With sponsorship and funding on board, Curling Nigeria is determined to deliver.
Right, you need to send a message right
Building
now
a
to Nigerian
curling
fans and
arena
all
would
who
open
love curling.
a big opportunity for us. Please help by donating.
And I've supported the Nigerian Curling Federation for
Definitely. So I just would like to give a big thank you to everyone who's been able to support us on this journey. It's been a great journey so far, and we've made a lot of progress. But I think furthermore, there's a lot more to come. And I think that you'll only see Nigeria continue to get better at curling and continue to be more successful. And then furthermore, I'd really just like to thank all the people on the ground in Nigeria who are really making this all possible and are really, I think, part of the future of this organization. So just a big shout out and a big thank you to them for being so supportive of the Federation and being there helping us all the way.
what are you bringing to the table? We know that the championship will be coming up very soon in November or December, as they say, if the COVID-19 doesn't get to that time. Now, what are you bringing to the table with the fact that you have teams they're going to be facing up with? So what are you bringing to the table? What's your message ahead of that championship coming up?
Definitely. So I think that like it's obviously going to be a great opportunity to go there, and I think that at this most upcoming kind of championship, we've got a lot more experience, and I think that we can really translate some of that experience into even more success. So I think that Nigeria's kind of been the only African nation to win at an international competition, and I think that we can really translate that success into future success. And I think most immediately, I think we'll see even more success at the World Championship in November.
Wonderful one. Precise and so short. It's a wonderful one having to have a conversation with you three over here in Nigeria. Of course, it's on Sports Edge, and we're so glad that curling is having a niche over here in Nigeria. It's a beautiful one to have you create something special like a self-training aid over there. Now, I know it will be accepted by people and to really grow the sport of curling. Thank you so much, Noah, for being on this show with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, friends, for being on the show too with us today, the conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure here. Of course, make sure you keep representing Nigeria in a good light, and make sure that every time when the championship comes up, Nigeria becomes the first at all things.